Conor McGregor has lost his sexual assault civil case in Dublin. A High Court jury awarded damages of €248,603 to Nikita Hand against McGregor on Friday after ruling that she was sexually assaulted by the former UFC champion in a Dublin hotel in December 2018. Hand, 35, claimed she was raped by McGregor and another man, James Lawrence, in a penthouse suite at the Beacon Hotel. The jury found that Lawrence did not assault Hand. Damages of €188,603.60 were awarded to Hand, with an additional €60,000 also added, making it a total of €248,603.60. Sorry, €248,000, €603.60. Sorry if that doesn't make sense. McGregor was accompanied to the court by fiancée Dee Devlin for the first time during the trial's 2-week proceedings to hear the jury's decision on Friday. Several of McGregor's family members were also present at the High Court. Reports from the court state that the jury took 6 hours and 10 minutes to come to their decision. Leaving the court at approximately 5 p.m. local time, McGregor declined to make comment as he was sworn by the waiting media. The case was a civil case, not a criminal case, meaning the assault is deemed a civil wrong and therefore the plaintiff is entitled to compensation. However, McGregor will not face criminal sanctions. Outside the High Court, Hand gave a statement to media thanking her legal team, the Rape Crisis Centre, her family and her friends. She said, "Lastly, I want to thank my daughter Freya. She has given me so much strength and courage over the last 6 years throughout this nightmare to keep pushing forward for justice. I want to show Freya and every other girl and boy that you can stand up for yourself if something happens to you, no matter who the person is, and justice will be served. To the victims of sexual assault, I hope my story is a reminder that no matter how afraid you might be, speak up, you have a voice, and keep on fighting for justice. I know this has not only impacted my life, my daughters, my family, and my friends tremendously. It is something that I will never forget for the rest of my life. Now that justice has been served, I can now try to move on and look forward to the future with my family and friends." So that is what we have so far. We will be adding to that article throughout the day. Sorry, I was very nervous about reading such a vast text there out loud, but obviously huge news here, lads. And please let me be a sounding board for you guys on this. I've been keeping up with this for the last 2 weeks. It has been an incredibly polarizing court case in Ireland. I mean, everybody has been weighing in. There has been talk about it everywhere. It's been all over the news, the cover of newspapers. And I'll remind you, as I said to Ariel earlier this week, there's a general election happening here next week. And I feel like this has been rivaling it for publicity, which is absolutely insane. We know McGregor has yet to comment. He left the court at about 5 p.m. with Dee Devlin. And of course, as we just read there, Nikita had her say outside of the High Court too. Incredible stuff concerning possibly the biggest star the the UFC has ever seen, Chuck.
It is. It's a crazy thing, man. It is. And I got to say that I wasn't anticipating. I know we kind of were hitting, touching base on this yesterday, that it might actually happen before we tape. And I don't think either one of us thought that it would be like guilty, right? Like it doesn't usually happen. So the first part of it is just like, wow, somebody's accused of notoriety, somebody who, has a big name and seems almost invincible in that sort of situation, finally gets caught with something, and I mean, nothing has really stuck to Conor McGregor other than, so he's had, like, people know, like, the kinds of things he's had, the old man at the bar situation, the mini car situations he's had. There's been so many things that have added up around him, but nothing really sticks. But I feel like this is that first big blow where something comes in and it's corroborated and it's found to be guilty and incredible and everything else. And you say, like, what does this mean for Conor McGregor? This is a crazy situation. And I got to say, man, it's like, it feels almost like you're talking about it in Ireland and kind of the way it's been. And I feel like it's almost I don't know how it feels out for you, Ben, in Montana, but it feels almost like nobody's talking about it out here until today. It feels like now it's blowing up, but it has kind of been under the radar. So this whole thing is a lot to process all at once, man.
I should also say that McGregor has just tweeted, and thank you for passing this on, Chuck. McGregor says, and this was at 3 minutes past 6, so about 15 minutes ago, "I will be appealing today's decision. The judge's instruction and the modest award given was for assault, not for aggravated or exemplary damages. I am not disappointed that the jury did not hear all. I am disappointed, excuse me. I am disappointed that the jury did not hear all the evidence that the DPP reviewed. I am with my family now, focused on my return. Thank you for all my support worldwide. Um, this was something that did come up in the court as well. We aren't privy to the reportings. There was a certain time where the judge had to stop DPP evidence being given up, as I explained at the start. DPP being Director of Public Prosecutions. They launched the initial investigation when Nikita went to the Rape Crisis Center. At some point, I'm not too sure which legal defense it was, but one of the teams tried to bring something in from it. There was a stop in the proceedings, and I believe what was reported at the time was they were told that none of this could come into this courtroom, as in this needs to be a completely separate thing than what the DPP were doing. Because if the DPP didn't bring it to court, then they can't be using evidence in a different court proceeding for that. If That's as far as I know now. And again, I am not a legal expert here, but I'm doing my very best for you guys.
It's tough on live show, isn't it? Just to put on your legal cap and jump into the
Yes.
situation. Do you think
Yeah.
that you know what commonly happens? And I'm not. This is more of a track record thing for Conor McGregor, just kind of being such a madcap, and just off the handle. Is it is it possible that more people actually, you know what I mean, like that more people seeing a victory against something like this come out of the woodwork? You know
Well,
what I'm
we
saying? Like, do you see something like that happening? I mean, the whispers at some point graduate into something more material, and this is that moment, right? Like of things
yeah.
going on with Conor McGregor. So, does that possibility exist?
I mean, there's certainly been more incidents that have been reported. I don't know how far, I don't know any of their grounds, evidence, anything like that. Um, you have to remember as well, this is 6 years later that Nikita
I
Hand
know.
is getting to court. So I wouldn't know the timelines or anything like that. Um, there's also the court case he has with Artem Lobov. I don't know when that's coming up. Like there's certainly a lot on his plate here if he's going through the appeals process. That will take a very long time too, I'd imagine. But I think you come away from something like this and you're kind of sitting around thinking like, what is the impact? Like that's the real next question, right? Like what
Mm-hmm.
what will this do to McGregor? And that's a very loaded question because McGregor's much more than an individual now. He's a brand. This guy has several companies attached to his name, like Forged Irish South, the MacLife, the Tidal spray. I know. I think there was talk of him launching other companies too. I mean, I'm only. This is the tip of the iceberg. The
I
things
know.
I mentioned. Do you think, Ben? Do you think that this affects him? You know, in insofar as what we talk about predominantly, his career in the UFC, or do you think the civil element is, as opposed to the criminal thing, will kind of help him in that regard, obscure him from any serious kind of reprimands?
I think there's a few different ways to look at it, honestly, because there's the question of how we in the MMA world, in the fight sports world, will look at him now. But then there's also the question of how the broader public looks at him now. As you've seen, especially recently, the fight sports world, the fight fans, are among sports fans, maybe the ones most willing to look past something like this. And that gives me no joy to say, but I think that it's true that a lot of fight sports fans will take the position of, for one thing, if he says he didn't do it, I don't believe it. And I just want to see him get back in there and fight again. I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who think that. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who are sympathetic to an argument like, oh, hey, he's a rich, famous guy, and people are coming after him with made up stories, just trying to get some money out of him, which I wish those people would stop and think about what this woman had to go through over the course of 6 years to end up here with a judgment of basically like $250,000. Like, would you go through that for that long just to get that amount of money out of it? I don't think many people would. I think that even being willing to come forward with that in the first place, she's seen how this has gone for other people. She had to know that they're going to tear your life apart and you're going to have to go to court and be willing to have them tear your life apart in a huge public sphere. And I don't, if you're willing to do that, then I'm inclined to believe, that this claim that it's not about money, that's about being heard and justice. But I think there's a lot of MMA fans who won't see it that way. And that's sad, but I think that that's the reality. However, as far as the more mainstream public, do you remember when he fought Floyd Mayweather? And there was an undercurrent of people at the time who were saying like, hey, I have not forgotten Floyd Mayweather's many incidents of violence against women. How am I supposed to give him my $100 for the pay-per-view and not feel gross about it? I remember writing a story for this. It was when I worked for USA Today and MMA Junkie, kind of about talking to different people about how they were trying to square that. They wanted to see the fight, but didn't feel great about giving Floyd Mayweather that money. And now you look at the other side of that fight, and Conor McGregor is in that. And so the next time he shows up to fight, you got to ask yourself, how do I feel about putting money in this guy's pocket? I think the other side of it, though, is getting him to get back in the UFC cage has been a big battle for the UFC. Is he more likely to want to do that because he wants to replace some of these bad headlines with, hey, remember the thing that you know me for? Remember the thing I'm actually famous for? Let me go and do that to try to put this stuff behind me. And it's not like I see the UFC being like, we don't want this kind of business. We've seen the UFC. They want that kind of business. They're not that concerned with what comes with it.
Thanks for watching this video. Hey, before you go, do me a favor, hit that sub button, give us a thumbs up, hit the little bell thingy as well. Leave us a nice comment or two. We appreciate you all very much.